Hello and welcome to the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate. Jim Riley here with Rod Kuntz.
How you doing, Mr. Riley?
Another day, another show. Spring's in the air. Montana delivers every time on the big blue sky.
Yes, it does.
I
If
can
it's not an inversion, it's beautiful.
I can see it's got to be, I don't know, 80 miles right now.
Oh, probably at least.
I can see all of Glacier Park right now, way beyond it. If you haven't been to Montana, visiting Glacier Park or any one of our regions, actually, it's so gorgeous here. And when you can see 80 miles and it's blue skies everywhere, not much better than that.
Well, I've been on mountaintops on those crystal clear days where I'm looking from Montana, Northwest Montana here, and I'm looking into Canada and I'm looking into Idaho.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You're looking across another mountain range into another state, and it's just a little curvature of the earth, that hides it. But it's incredible.
Pretty epic. So I want to jump right into our topic so that we don't lose anybody on our early chitter chatter, which oftentimes is the best part of the show. I have to admit, I walk away from the beginning, I'm like, that was a good starter. So I just did a video for, it was an email blast, and I also posted on my social media. It was basically why we created the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate. Talked a little bit about, my background and my dummy tax, just to give people an idea of what I've done before. What I'd like to talk about today, Rod, and I'm going to let you go first on this one, is when somebody joins the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate, what values are we giving them right off the bat? Or what values can they extract out of the club, our community? And I don't mean values in the way of, like I have my values, God, family, health, etc. I mean, when they join and it's $99 a month, what are they getting out of that for their $99? And I'd like for you to talk about a few of those things because, on our last show, we talked about the hard sell. And, we brought in that story about Kevin, the window and stuff, the window
Right.
business, and how you guys connected and now potentially, you could be a client of his, and, the door's open. And to me, that's a value that the community brings. A matter of fact, funny, we talked about Kevin on the last show. This morning, he's seeing another client that I referred to him to do some flooring. Yeah, he's a window man, handyman, right? So he's bidding on a flooring job local to me over here. And it's all because now I'm hyper aware of what he does, what his skill set is, and I can refer him out. Before we hit the record button or before I jumped on the show today, I got a call from a guy in California, in San Diego, California, telling me all about the meat that he purchased from Reminisce Angus, the company that I'm partnered with now. Right. And he was going on and on and on and on and on about it. And now he's going to tell all his friends. So community is so important and there's value to that. But I'm done stalling and giving you some time to think about it now. So if somebody joins Young Entrepreneur Syndicate, what values do you believe they're going to get right off the bat? Go.
Community, number one.
Immunity.
Community.
Oh, community.
With immunity, you're immune from the negative stuff in the world.
Well,
community that's positive.
You're immune from COVID because we're going to tell you that the CDC says now treat it like the flu. So
well, I've always treated it like the flu. So
you and me both.
CDC's finally caught up with me. Anyway, I'm not going to go down that rabbit trail.
Community.
Today.
You're going to get community.
So you get community, and it's positive. It's positive input. Believe me, there is enough negative input with whatever you're doing out there. If you turn on the radio, turn on the news, you're getting negative influence, and you need some positivity to counteract that, to counterbalance it. We need some counterweight, and we offer that. Number one.
Okay, hold on. Let's talk about each one because I want to weigh in on this because it's so important. And you guys can gloss over this. When Rod talks about community and support, I want you to think, if you're an entrepreneur out there, and I don't want to lean in on the ladies, but I've consulted a lot of people. Oftentimes, people lack confidence to become an entrepreneur in an arena that they really desire to be in. And when you're in a community and you're being lifted up and supported and giving tools and giving an advice in a friendly, positive manner, it gives you the strength and the ability to chase after that. I can't tell you, right, how many people I've coached privately that lack confidence to go do what they want to do. It's like, wait a minute. You have the life experience and all the skill and the passion to do this. Why are you worried about it? So community and a support mechanism on a weekly basis, every Monday night, like clockwork, 6 p.m. Montana Standard Time, all of a sudden you got community to support what you're doing. Nobody going, that'll never work. That'll never work. Good point.
Yeah, we're filling the gas tank, and you already have the gas tank. You have the idea, you've got whatever you have there, but it gets depleted. And, we know that you can't be up 100% of the time. You just aren't. You can't. But you have to get yourself back to that place faster and faster. And you have to recognize the things that start drawing you away from that full tank so that you can minimize it, shorten the length of it, and get back after it. You gotta stay on that cutting edge. But anytime there's friction, it's going to dull you a little bit. So
good point number
that's
one.
A big one.
Okay.
So point number one. Point number two, you alluded to earlier, which is networking. And what is the 7 degrees of separation? Have you heard that before?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you
like
look
2
at 7
now.
degrees. Yeah, it probably is like 2. Maybe
with social media.
Yeah. So, but it's not who you know, it's who they know. And that's a hard lesson for people to get. And my background, part of my background is in network marketing. And that it's all affiliate marketing, okay? Multi-level, but it's affiliate marketing. And it really isn't about who you know and who you get started. It's about who you find in that web of the people that other people know.
Mm-hmm.
And what made me successful was finding the people that understood it, that got it, that had the spark, and then cultivating and making them leaders. That's how I became successful. And to give you an example, I personally started 12 people. And by the time I was done, I had over 40, 50,000 customers in my downline. And all of the originals had really stopped doing anything. But it was the people that I found underneath them that several of them, I can think of 10 that did better than I did, that made more money, that had bigger organizations ultimately than I did. And I was a part of all that because I started something. And then I worked with the next contact and their contact and their contact. And sometimes I was 4 levels, 5 levels deep to find somebody that blew it up.
Mm-hmm.
It just blew it up. And then I would go back to the people that signed that one up and that one up and that one up and said, do you know what you're missing? Do you know what's happened because of who you introduced me to? And once they saw it, they could re-energize, and then it would grow again. It would start a whole new growth spurt. So, it's not always consistent growth. It's not 10% growth month after month, quarter after quarter. There's ebbs and flows, but it's how you chase it, how you follow up. And being with people who have done that and see the value of it and can get you pointed in those directions is really phenomenal. And it's you and I, because not just because we're older, I think, but our life experience has shown us the value in that, number one, and the tools to cultivate it.
Mm-hmm.
And those are those soft skills. So we give you those soft skills and then teach you and train you and coach you until you make them a part of who you are and who your business is, but with your own spin. So we're not rubber stamping. We're not saying this is what you need to do. This is how you have to be. This is how you have to dress. This is what you got to say. We don't do that. We want you to bring your own personality, your own identity to your business, but we help you do it. And to me, that's the beauty of it. And I have people ask me all the time, well, how do you know these things? I just don't think that way, they tell me. I don't think about those things. Well, you're not expected to. You haven't had multiple careers and you haven't spent years in the trenches. We have. And so you can tap into that. And it's so valuable. And I've told you before, Jim, I never had a mentor. I had thousands because I had
Yeah.
to pick pieces up here and there, but I never had someone who took me under their wing. Not a family member, not a parent, not a rich uncle, nobody. So I was just gleaning things anywhere I could and trying to make sense of it myself. And so that's the hard way. We all understand the value of good coaching and good mentoring, and to have that at your fingertips and not utilize it is a big error on people's part. So
I
those are the
like
two,
that
those are the
last
two
point.
biggest.
The last point about mentorship, right? I think that language has been lost in our society, by the way. I don't hear as many youth talking about looking for a mentor or, being advised to find a mentor to do better in what life, business, et cetera. And, yes, it's a membership to be involved with the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate. But when you look at it as an investment to have solid mentorship on a regular basis, an unbiased mentorship that will teach you, like you talked about, the soft skills, the important skills that aren't often taught, the things that will set you apart. Those are things that back in the day, mentors used to teach you. And
Yes.
I love that consideration as far as a value to becoming a member. And I said it to Kevin the other day. I said, your network is your net worth. And that's, oftentimes, like you said, it's who you know, but who they know,
Right.
and how that you can start to connect the dots. And which also goes back to, not to go down a rabbit hole, but it goes back to you having the soft skills so that when somebody does refer you to a friend of a friend and they circle back around, that you have the soft skills to leverage that opportunity that's been placed in front of you. That how to return a phone call, that how to be kind, that how to ask the right questions in a caring, giving way, how to deliver value for value, how to follow up and run a good business and have good account, all those things that we help with in the syndicate group, so, okay. So two great points.
Well,
And
three, if we count mentorship as a separate one. So
sure.
networking and then community mentoring. Um, and the next, I think, would be oxygen. We give people in the syndicate, those Monday night calls are oxygen. And what I mean by that is when we sit down in our own circle, we become our own echo chamber in our own head. Those ideas that we have, and the looking at this and looking at that scenario and the what ifs, and contemplating it and thinking about it. And then you might talk about it with your spouse or your close friends or whatever. But when you're with other business minded people, oxygen is added to that, to your thought, to your thinking process, and it gets people thinking outside the box. It's like, I didn't think about that. And then all of a sudden they come up with three of their own ideas, their own
Mhm.
original ideas based on something somebody said about something that might be totally off the subject. But it's the off the subject oxygen that fuels that next level of growth. And you don't get that in a vacuum, and you don't get it in your own echo chamber. And so that's maybe part of community, maybe part of mentorship, but there's a magic that happens. And that's why I'm calling it oxygen. There's a magic that happens that's not a tangible. Something just happens. We've seen that before, when people just gel, or when an idea comes together and a plan comes together and everything just falls into place. And people call it synchronicity and people call it providence and whatever, put any name you want to it. But there's a magic that happens when you're in a group and everyone's pointed in the same direction.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to throw opportunity out there. And that's because within a community there comes opportunity, and that's opportunity to collaborate with people, opportunity to solve somebody else's problems through your services, opportunity to widen your network and your community outside of, maybe you live in small town, somewhere out in the middle of Ohio on a little farm like Jocelyn.
right.
Maybe you don't have the opportunity to get beyond those four walls, but when you're in a community, all of a sudden your four walls are extended to 50 states. So there's so much opportunity when you become involved in a community to grow and achieve different levels of success, whatever that looks like for you. So I think opportunity is a big one.
I like that. Now here's my last one, just because I'm going to be considerate of the time. Help. You get to help other people. We set this up to help people. But what's more important is when our members come on board and online, they have an opportunity to help others within the community. It's not just about getting, it's about giving. And they can give advice. We've seen this several times. We've got several members that have now connected on their own outside, and they're helping each other's businesses grow. And they're offering their help, their advice, their ideas. And it's that helping others that takes that growth to the next level. You want to 10x things, get in the same room with like-minded people, get that oxygen going. But then when you start helping others, it just magnifies all that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that's probably one of the biggest advantages to this, because if we're not helping others, we're not going to be able to help ourselves.
Yeah. Well, let's leave it at that. I'm trying to bring some value to our listeners and the people that are considering becoming members. They've listened to these shows. They've heard the things that we talk about. Maybe they've gleaned some value out of them, but I wanted to show them exactly what they can get if they became members of the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate. By the way, we've curated a pretty neat library, the backside of the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate, books that Rod and I and Rachel have read, as well as some that have been recommended to us to read. So, there's all kinds of ways that we can help and get you started and point in the right direction. And we'd love to have you. So if you like the show, if you like what we're doing, hit up the youngentrepreneurssyndicate.com, become a member, and be a part of our community. Rod, any closing thoughts?
I'm just thinking that what I really like about this, Jim, is that we're non-scripted. We're just two guys with real experience, and we just hit it, hit us with anything. We don't care. And it's not a scripted show. It's not a scripted group. We come to the table prepared every week to offer something that we've researched, studied, and will add value. And then it's the real factor from there. There's no pretension. It's just two guys putting it out there. And with Rachel, 3, and then with the whole group, everyone's just being real.
Yeah.
And that there's a magic with that too.
Yeah. Love it. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up from there. Thanks for tuning in. Please share the show.